Everything is okay now.
The desert stretched endless beneath the afternoon sun. Interstate 40 cut through Arizona like a scar across weathered skin, and on it, a single rider moved through the heat shimmer like a ghost from another time. Decker
All
Ironside
right, boys,
Whitmore
let's
had
ride.
been riding for
Sun's
41
perfect for it.
years.
Laptop secure, let's
66
hit it.
years old with
Born
hands
ready.
that bore the scars of 1,000 repairs and a back that still remembered the weight of a Marine Corps pack. His Harley-Davidson Softail, a 1979 model he'd rebuilt 3 times over, rumbled beneath him with the steady heartbeat of American iron. The engine's rhythm was his meditation, the road his confessional. He'd built this bike from a rusted frame he'd found behind a Bakersfield junkyard in 1982. Rebuilt the engine during a winter in Flagstaff when he had nothing but time and ghosts for company. Every bolt, every wire, every piece of chrome told a story. The bike was an extension of himself, scarred, rebuilt, still running. The phone mounted to his handlebars buzzed. He glanced down. The screen read, "Mama." Something tightened in his chest. His mother never called at this hour. Hell, she barely called at all. Their relationship had become a careful dance of monthly phone calls and surface-level questions. How's the weather? How's your health? Are you eating right? Never the deeper questions. Never the ones that mattered. He tapped the answer button on his Bluetooth headset. Mama, the sound that came through made his blood turn cold. Breathing. Ragged, desperate breathing. Then a voice, his mother's voice, thin and frightened. Decker, son. Then another voice, male, young, cruel. Shut up, you old... The line went dead. Decker's hand tightened on the throttle. For 3 seconds, the desert around him ceased to exist. There was only the silence where his mother's voice had been and the hammering of his heart against his ribs. The phone buzzed again. Not a call this time, a message. MMS. His hands were steady as he pulled onto the shoulder. 41 years on the road had taught him control. The Marines had taught him to assess before acting. But when he opened the message, all that training threatened to crack apart. The video was 12 seconds long. It showed a woman, his mother, Lorraine Whitmore, lying on railroad tracks. Her silver hair was matted with blood. Her wrists were bound with thick ropes secured to the rails. Her ankles the same. She wasn't moving. The camera was shaky handheld. Amateur. A voice off camera distorted with rage, and something chemical, something wrong. This is what happens to snitches. Train comes at 6:47. Tick-tock, old woman. Tick-tock. The video ended. Decker looked at his watch. 4:11 p.m. He had 2 hours and 36 minutes. The desert was silent around him except for the idle rumble of his bike. A hawk circled overhead, riding thermals. In the distance, heat made the highway dance and shimmer like water. 2 hours and 36 minutes. His hands found the throttle again. His mind was already calculating. Tucson to Silverton. 235 miles. 3 hours if he followed the law. Less if he didn't. He twisted the throttle. The Harley's engine roared in response, and Decker Whitmore became a dark streak against the bright Arizona wasteland, racing toward a past he'd spent 29 years trying to outrun. The memories came unbidden as the miles fell away beneath his wheels. They always did when he thought of Silverton, of his mother, of the man he used to be. Decker had been born in 1960 in a small house on the edge of Flagstaff where the pine forest met the desert scrub. His father, Clayton Whitmore, had worked the copper mines near Jerome. Hard work, honest work, the kind that paid just enough to keep food on the table and shoes on 3 boys' feet. Clayton died in 1972. A cable snapped in shaft number 7. 12 men went down, only 3 came back up. Clayton wasn't one of them. Decker was 12 years old when they buried his father, old enough to understand death, not old enough to understand what it meant to be the man of the house. His mother, Lorraine, had held the family together with nothing but will and thread. She took in sewing, mended clothes for the mining families who could barely afford to pay, worked double shifts as a waitress at the Route 66 diner. She never complained, not once. Decker remembered watching her work by lamplight, her needle moving in and out of fabric with the precision of prayer. She would hum old hymns while she sewed. Her hands never stopped moving, but her voice was calm, steady. "Everything broken can be fixed, Decker," she told him once, holding up a torn jacket. "You just need patience and the knowledge of how to see what's wrong." "What about when people are broken, Mama?" She looked at him, then really looked at him and set down her needle. "People too, son, people too. But that takes more than patience. That takes love." He joined the Marines at 18, served 4 years, Grenada in 1983, a small operation barely remembered now, but it had been real enough when bullets sang past his head. He'd learned discipline there. Learned that fear was just another enemy to face down. Learned that following orders kept you alive. But when he came home in 1984, the structure he'd relied on was gone. The civilian world felt shapeless, formless. He drifted for months, working odd jobs, drinking too much, sleeping too little. Then he found the Hells Angels. Or maybe they found him. It was at a roadhouse outside of Phoenix, 1985. He'd been nursing a beer and staring at his reflection in the bar mirror when a man sat down next to him. Big guy. Leather vest with patches that told a story of thousands of miles and dozens of chapters. The man ordered a whiskey, didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, "You look lost, brother." Decker had turned to him. "I know where I am." "I didn't say you didn't know where you were. I said you look lost." The man's name was Jericho. He was the president of the Nomads chapter, and he saw in Decker something worth saving. Or maybe just something useful. "We ride together. We watch each other's backs. We live free. You interested?" Decker had been interested. For 41 years since he'd worn the patch, Hells Angels, Nomads chapter. He'd earned his road name Ironside not because he was hard, but because he never went down. No matter what hit him, he stayed upright. Broken bones, broken bikes, broken hearts. He stayed upright. The Brotherhood had given him purpose. The road had given him freedom. And for 29 years, that had been enough to keep him from going home. The voice from his past echoed in his head as the highway blurred beneath him. It was 1997. He'd been 37 years old. He hadn't been back to Silverton in 12 years. But his brother called. His mother was having health problems. Nothing serious, but she needed help around the house. Decker had ridden home on a Tuesday afternoon, the sky heavy with monsoon clouds. His mother's house looked smaller than he remembered. The paint was fading. The porch sagged a little. But the garden was immaculate: tomatoes, peppers, herbs growing in neat rows. Lorraine had always been able to make things grow. She'd been sitting on the porch when he pulled up her hands working on a piece of embroidery. She looked up at the sound of his engine, and for a moment neither of them moved. Then she smiled. Small, careful. "Hello, Decker." "Mama." They'd gone inside. She made coffee. They sat at the kitchen table where he'd eaten 1,000 meals as a boy. The silence between them was thick with unspoken things. Finally, she'd set down her cup. "What are you running from, son?" The question had hit him like a physical blow. "I'm not running from anything, Mama. I'm living my life." Living and running looked the same sometimes. He'd felt anger flare. "I came back, didn't I? I'm here. You're here in body, but you left in spirit 12 years ago. I've been waiting for you to come home. Really come home. This isn't my home anymore." She'd looked at him then with eyes that held more sadness than he could bear. "Then where is your home, Decker?" He hadn't had an answer. He'd stayed for 2 weeks, fixed the porch, repaired the roof, changed the oil in her old Buick. But they never had another conversation like that one. They kept to safe topics: weather, town gossip, recipes. On the day he left, she'd walked him to his bike. "I love you, son. No matter where you ride, no matter how far. You remember that." "I love you too, Mama." "Then prove it. Come home." He'd ridden away that afternoon under clear blue skies, and he hadn't come back. 29 years of monthly phone calls. 29 years of "I'll visit soon." 29 years of running from the one person who'd never run from anything in her life. Now she was tied to railroad tracks, and he had 2 hours and 16 minutes. The phone rang. Decker answered without slowing down. "Bishop?" Axel Bishop Kincaid was the president of the Hells Angels Nomads chapter. 63 years old, built like an old prize fighter, with a voice that sounded like gravel in a blender. He'd been Decker's president for 20 years. More than that, he'd been his friend. "Decker, got your SOS. What's the situation?" Decker kept his voice level, professional. Emotion was a luxury he couldn't afford right now. "My mother's been taken, tied to railroad tracks outside Silverton. Train comes at 6:47 p.m. I'm 200 miles out." There was a pause. When Bishop spoke again, his voice had changed. Harder, colder. "Who did it?" "Don't know yet. Got a video. Young voice, local accent. I'll know more when I get there." "You're not going alone, brother. Where are you?" "Just passing Marana, heading northeast." "Stay on the line." Decker heard muffled voices, orders being given. The Nomads chapter had been meeting at their Tucson clubhouse, a charity ride planning session. All the senior members would be there. Bishop came back. We're rolling in 5. Gunner, preacher, Smoke, and me. We'll meet you at the Silverton Junction. ETA. Decker did the math. 6:10 if I push it. Too close. Push harder. We'll be your backup, but your point on this. Understood. Decker. Bishop's voice softened slightly. Your mama is our mama. We ride for her like we'd ride for blood. Something in Decker's chest loosened just slightly. Thank you, brother. Don't thank me. Just get there. And Decker, you're not alone. Remember that. The line went dead. Decker twisted the throttle harder. The speedometer climbed past 90 toward 100. The desert became a blur of sand and sage and stone. Ahead, the Catalina Mountains rose like broken teeth against the sky. He wasn't alone. The Brotherhood was real. It was the one thing in his life that had never wavered, never bent, never broken. But deep in his gut, beneath the cold tactical thinking and the adrenaline, there was a voice, small, quiet, accusing. You left her alone for 29 years. Where was your Brotherhood then? By the time Decker reached the outskirts of Tucson, his fuel light was on and his hands were cramping on the grips. He pulled into a truck stop, killed the engine. The sudden silence was overwhelming. He sat on his bike in the parking lot, surrounded by semis and RVs and families and minivans. And for the first time in 41 years of riding, Decker Whitmore felt truly alone. His phone buzzed. Another message. This time a photo. His mother's face. Close up. Her eyes were open, staring at the camera. There was dried blood on her temple, but she was conscious. Alive. The text below read, "Your fault, biker. You should have stayed away." Decker's jaw tightened. His hands, which had been shaking with exhaustion moments before, went still. Cold. Steady. Someone knew who he was. Someone knew his mother. Someone had planned this. This wasn't random violence. This was personal. His mind raced backward through decades. Enemies made. Debts unpaid. Old grudges in small towns across the Southwest. The Hells Angels had plenty of rivals. Plenty of people who might want revenge. But targeting a civilian. Targeting an 87-year-old woman. That was different. That was something else. He opened his contacts, scrolled to a name he hadn't called in 15 years. Harlan Rust McAllister, former Marine, former drinking buddy. Current bartender at Dusty's Roadhouse in Silverton. The phone rang 4 times before a gravelly voice answered. "Yeah, Rust, it's Decker Whitmore." Silence, Ish. Then, "Jesus Christ, Decker. That really you? It's me, I need information fast." Rust's tone shifted immediately. He'd been a Marine too. He understood urgency. "Talk to me. Someone took my mother, tied her to railroad tracks. They sent me a message that says it's my fault. Who in Silverton has beef with me?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Decker, when's the last time you talked to your mama? I mean, really talked? What does that have to do with?" "Just answer the question." 29 years ago. I've called monthly, but we don't talk about much." Russ let out a long breath. "Then you don't know." "Don't know what? About what happened 3 weeks ago? About the court case?" Decker's blood went cold. "What court case?" "Your mama testified against Garrett Stillwell, DUI property damage. He plowed through her fence drunk out of his mind. She was the only witness. Her testimony got him fined $6,500 and 8 months suspended sentence." Stillwell. The name rang a bell. Distant. Old. Wade Stillwell's son, Bishop, grandson. Wade's the father, but this goes back further than that, Decker. This goes back 31 years. "Explain." Rust's voice dropped lower. 1995. Your mama testified against Silas Stillwell. Drug trafficking. Biggest bust in Silverton history. Silas got 30 years. Died in prison in 2020. The Stillwell family, they never forgave her. They raised Garrett on that grudge. Fed it to him like mother's milk. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Decker remembered 1995. He remembered his mother calling him frightened, saying she'd witnessed something, saying she had to testify. He remembered coming home for 2 weeks making sure she was safe. Then he remembered leaving, going back to the road, telling himself she'd be fine. The law would protect her. "Where's Garrett now?" Decker's voice was flat. "Dead. Him and his boys hang out at the old lumber mill, abandoned since 2009. But Decker, you need to know. This isn't just Garrett. His father Wade is involved. Maybe others. The Stillwells have deep roots here." "How deep?" "Deep enough that when your mama's fence got destroyed, it took her 3 days to get a cop to even take a report. Deep enough that Garrett walked around town bragging he'd get away with it, until your mama stood up in court and told the truth. Decker's free hand clenched into a fist. Where would they take her? There are multiple railroad tracks around Silverton. 3 main sections. But Decker, if they know you're coming, they'll have planned for it. These aren't just stupid kids. They're mean and they're smart enough to be dangerous. I'm not asking for easy rust. I'm asking for information. The section near the old oak tree. The one where Mama used to take me walking, I remember. If they know your history, they'd pick that spot. It's isolated. It's symbolic. In Decker, the Union Pacific freight comes through there at 6:47 every evening, like clockwork. Decker checked his watch. 5:58 p.m., 49 minutes. Thanks, Rust. Decker, wait. There's something else you should know. What? Your mama. She's tough. Tougher than anyone gives her credit for. 3 weeks ago in that courtroom, Garrett Stillwell looked her in the eye and said, "You'll regret this, old woman." And you know what your mama did? She looked right back at him and said, "I've lived 87 years doing what's right. I won't stop now." Something broke inside Decker's chest, a dam he'd built brick by brick over 29 years. She stood up to him alone, Decker said quietly. Yeah, she did. Because that's who your mama is. She doesn't run. She never has. Unlike me, Decker thought. Unlike her coward son who's been running for 3 decades. I'm coming home, Rust. I know you are, brother. Just don't come alone. I won't. Decker ended the call. He sat in the parking lot as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Blood and fire. His phone buzzed again. A text from Bishop. Rolling now. 4 bikes, 20 minutes out from your position. Decker typed back, Silverton. Old oak tree rail section. We'll send coordinates. Bishop's response was immediate. Received. We ride together. We fight together. Nobody touches your mama. Decker started his engine. The Harley roared to life, and with it something else. Something that had been dormant for 29 years. Purpose. Clear and sharp as broken glass. He wasn't just riding to save his mother. He was riding toward the man he should have been. The man his father had been. The man his mother deserved. He pulled out of the truck stop and merged back onto the highway. The sun was at his back now, casting his shadow long across the asphalt. Behind him, 4 more engines roared to life. 4 more riders joined the highway. Brothers in leather and steel riding toward a debt that needed paying. The miles fell away. The landscape changed from Tucson's sprawl to open desert, from flat plains to rolling hills studded with juniper and pinyon pine. The elevation climbed. The air grew cooler. Decker's mind was working through scenarios. Tactical assessments. The Marines had taught him to plan. The Hells Angels had taught him to adapt. 3 hostiles minimum. Garrett Stillwell and at least 2 associates, young, angry, probably armed, hopped up on meth and old grudges. The railroad section near the old oak tree was a 1/4 mile from the nearest road, accessible by dirt track only. Isolated. Perfect for what they had planned. But isolation worked both ways. Decker's phone rang again. He answered. Talk to me, Preacher. Silas Preacher Thorne had earned his road name not from religion, but from his tendency to lecture about technology. Before joining the Hells Angels, he'd worked for a defense contractor, signals intelligence, the kind of skills that didn't go away just because you traded a security clearance for a leather vest. I've been running searches on Garrett and Stillwell and Associates, Preacher said. His voice was calm, analytical. Found social media activity, private Discord server. They've been planning this for at least 2 weeks. What else? They posted the video to the server, but someone leaked it. Screenshots sent to a local law enforcement email address 45 minutes ago. Who? Can't trace the sender, burner account. But Decker, the sheriff's department, received it and didn't respond. No units dispatched, no welfare check on your mother's address. Decker's jaw tightened. The sheriff's in on it. That's my assessment. Knox Aldridge has been sheriff for 32 years, long enough to build connections, long enough to owe favors. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I've got drones in my saddlebag and a laptop with enough processing power to run surveillance. When we get there, I'll get proof. Good. Send me everything you have on Garrett Stillwell, Associates vehicles, known locations. Sending now. Decker, we're 10 minutes behind you. Don't go in alone. I won't. But even as he said it, Decker knew that if it came down to it, If those last few minutes ticked away and he had to choose between waiting for backup or saving his mother, he'd choose her. Every time. The data came through. Decker pulled over briefly to scan it. Garrett Stillwell, age 32, multiple arrests, drug possession, assault, DUI. The photo showed a thin man with hollow eyes and the kind of rage that comes from being told the world owes you something it'll never give. Associate 1 Flint Kavanaugh, age 30, served 3 years for auto theft. Current status unemployed. Associate 2 Pierce Drummond, age 34, domestic violence conviction. Restraining order from ex-wife. Current status unemployed. 3 wastes of oxygen, Decker thought coldly. 3 men who'd probably never built anything, never fixed anything, never created anything of value. Who found it easier to tear down than to build up. His phone buzzed with a location ping. Preacher had triangulated the most likely position based on cell tower data and the video's metadata. The old oak tree section, just like Rust had said. Decker memorized the approach routes. 2 dirt roads in, 1 from the north, 1 from the south. The tracks ran east-west. The oak tree, massive ancient, alone on a small rise, would be visible from half a mile away. He checked his watch. 6:32 p.m. 15 minutes. The highway exit for Silverton appeared ahead. Decker took it without slowing, leaning into the curve. His bike handled like an extension of his body. 41 years of riding had made the machine and the man almost indistinguishable. The town appeared as a cluster of buildings huddled against the desert. Population 2,800, smaller than he remembered. Or maybe he'd just gotten used to bigger places, bigger roads, bigger distances between himself and the past. He didn't slow down through town, just a dark blur on a Harley engine howling heading toward the edge where civilization gave way to scrubland. The North Dirt Road. He took it. The track was rough-rutted, studded with rocks that would have made most riders slow down. Decker didn't slow down. He stood on the pegs, let the bike's suspension absorb the impacts, kept the throttle pinned. Dust rose behind him in a rooster tail. The sun was touching the horizon now, turning the sky into a watercolor of orange, red, and purple, beautiful and terrible all at once. He saw the oak tree, quarter mile ahead, exactly where it had always been, huge and gnarled and alone. His mother had brought him here as a child, told him stories under its branches. Stories of his father, of their courtship, of the promises they'd made to each other. This tree has been here longer than Silverton, she'd said. It'll be here long after we're gone. That's how you measure what matters, Decker. Not by how loud something is, but by how long it stands. He could see the railroad tracks now. They gleamed in the late sun like twin scars across the earth. And there on those tracks, a figure. Too far to make out details. But he knew the way you know in your bones when something fundamental has gone wrong with the world. His mother. Decker's vision narrowed, the world reduced to a tunnel. At the end of that tunnel was Lorraine Whitmore, and nothing else mattered. He killed his headlight, slowed the bike to a crawl, then killed the engine entirely. Let momentum carry him forward another 100 yards before he put his feet down. Silence. Absolute except for the ticking of his cooling engine and the hammering of his heart. He dismounted, reached into his saddlebag, pulled out the wrench, 18 inches long, solid steel, heavy as a promise. He'd carried it for 40 years, fixed 1,000 problems with it. Today it might have to fix one more. He moved forward on foot. The ground was soft here, Sandy. His boots made almost no sound. Closer, 50 yards. He could see her clearly now. Lorraine Whitmore lay on the tracks. Her silver hair was matted with dried blood. Her hands were bound to one rail, her feet to the other. Rope. Thick hemp rope, the kind that wouldn't break easily. She wasn't moving. Decker's throat tightened. Was he too late? Had they killed her already? Then he saw her chest rise. Fall. Rise again. Alive. Relief hit him so hard he almost staggered. But mixed with relief was rage. Pure, cold, controlled. He approached slowly, scanning for threats. The area seemed deserted. No vehicles visible. No movement except the swaying branches of the oak tree. 10 yards from the tracks he knelt, listened. From the east, faint but growing louder, a sound that made his blood freeze. A train whistle, long and low and inevitable. He checked his watch. 6:43 p.m. 4 minutes. Decker ran. His boots pounded against dirt and scrub. He reached the tracks, dropped to his knees beside his mother. Mama, Mama, can you hear me? Lorraine's eyes fluttered open. Confusion, pain, then recognition. Decker. Her voice was a whisper. Broken. Son, you came. I'm here, Mama. I'm getting you out. He pulled his Ka-bar knife from his belt. The blade was 7 inches of carbon steel honed to a razor edge. He'd carried it since his Marine days. It had cut through jungle vines in Grenada, through rope and wire and leather across 40 years. It would cut through this rope. He started with her left wrist. The rope was thick, coarse, the kind that fought back. He sawed at it, the blade biting deep. The train whistle sounded again. Closer, much closer. "How long?" Lorraine whispered. "Don't talk. Save your strength." "How long since you've been home?" The question hit him harder than any punch he'd ever taken. 29 years, Mama." "Too long." The left wrist rope parted. Her hand fell free. She gasped in pain as blood rushed back into oxygen-starved tissue. Decker moved to her right wrist, sawed harder, faster. "I'm sorry," he said. The words came out rough. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed gone. I'm sorry for all of it." "You're here now." Her eyes met his. Even battered, even bleeding, there was steel in them. "That's what matters." The right wrist rope snapped, both hands free. The train whistle was close enough now that he could hear the rumble beneath it, the deep bass note of thousands of tons of steel moving at 60 miles per hour. He moved to her ankles, started cutting. The rope here was newer, tighter. Whoever tied it had known what they were doing. "Decker," his mother's voice was steady despite everything. "If you can't get me free in time, you run. You hear me? You run. I'm not leaving you. I'm 87 years old. I've lived a full life. You have years ahead of you. I'm not leaving you." The knife slipped, bit into his hand. Blood welled up, mixing with his mother's on the rope. He didn't slow down. The left ankle rope parted, one left. The train rounded the bend. He could see it now. Union Pacific freight locomotive pulling what looked like 80 cars. The engineer would have seen them by now. Would be hitting the brakes. But 80 loaded freight cars don't stop quickly. Physics is unforgiving. The horn blasted. Long, continuous, desperate. The engineer's way of saying, "I see you, but I can't stop." Decker sawed at the final rope. His hands were slick with blood, his mother's impossible to tell. The blade kept slipping. "Come on! Come on!" The ground began to vibrate. Small stones jumped and danced on the railroad ties. The rope was fraying, almost through, almost, it snapped. Decker grabbed his mother under the arms. Lifted. She weighed nothing. Had she always been this light, or had the years stolen even her substance? He pulled her toward the embankment. 5 feet. 10. The train was a wall of noise and light and unstoppable momentum. 15 feet. He stumbled, went down, held her tight against his chest as they rolled down the embankment. The train screamed past. The downdraft from its passage was like a physical blow. Dust and grit and noise that obliterated thought. Decker lay on his back at the bottom of the embankment, his mother in his arms, and watched 80 freight cars thunder past where she had been lying seconds before. Each car was a second chance. Each car was a moment stolen back from death. The last car passed. The train's lights faded into the distance. The horn sounded one final time, then faded. Silence returned to the desert. Decker lay there holding his mother, and for the first time in 29 years, he allowed himself to cry. "Son." Lorraine's voice was weak but clear. "You did good. I almost didn't make it. But you did. That's what counts." He helped her sit up, checked her over with hands that had learned field medicine in the Marines. Concussion, definitely. Contusions, rope burns that would scar. But alive. Alive. "I need to get you to a hospital." "Not yet." She gripped his arm with surprising strength. "They'll come back. The men who did this. They'll want to see, to make sure." She was right. This wasn't over. Decker pulled out his phone, dialed. "Bishop, I've got her. She's alive. But we've got incoming. How far out are you?" 3 minutes. Hold tight." Decker helped his mother into the shelter of the oak tree's roots, made her as comfortable as possible. Then he stood wrench in hand and faced the dirt road. If they wanted to finish this, they'd have to go through him first. And Decker Ironside Whitmore hadn't stayed upright for 41 years by going down easy. The sun touched the horizon. The desert turned gold and red, and in the distance he heard the sound of engines, multiple engines, coming fast. The sound of engines grew louder. Decker stood in the fading light wrench in hand, watching 3 sets of headlights bounce along the dirt road from the south. Not his brothers. Wrong direction. Wrong sound. These were truck engines. Harsh. Aggressive. Coming fast. Behind him, sheltered in the roots of the ancient oak, his mother stirred. "Decker, you need to hide me. If they see I'm alive, they'll have to kill me first." That's what I'm afraid of. The trucks were close enough now that he could make out details. 3 vehicles. A red Ford F-150 in the lead, jacked up on oversized tires. Behind it, a Chevy Silverado and a Dodge Ram, both modified for desert running. The kind of vehicles that told a story about their owners, too much money spent on appearance, not enough on substance. The Ford skidded to a stop 30 yards away, engine still running. The headlights pinned Decker in their glare. He didn't move, didn't raise his hand to shield his eyes. Just stood there, a dark silhouette against the sunset, holding his wrench like a sword. The truck doors opened. 3 men climbed out. The first was thin, wiry, moving with the jerky energy of someone riding a chemical high. Garrett Stillwell. Even at this distance, Decker could see the hollow eyes, the clenched jaw. Meth had a signature, and this man wore it like a brand. The second was broader muscle gone to fat, moving with the careful balance of someone who'd spent time in lockup and learned to watch his surroundings. Flint Kavanaugh. Auto thief, current status accomplice to attempted murder. The third was pure violence wrapped in human skin, bigger than the other two, with the kind of build that came from prison yard workouts and anabolic steroids. Pierce Drummond, domestic abuser, the kind of man who hurt people smaller than himself because it was the only power he'd ever known. Garrett took 3 steps forward, stopped. His hand went to his waistband. "You're supposed to be holding your dead mama right now, biker. How the hell?" "You made a mistake," Decker said. His voice was quiet, calm, the kind of calm that came before storms. "You should have killed her quick. You should have put a bullet in her and been done. But you wanted to be clever. You wanted to make a statement." Garrett's laugh was high-pitched. "Wrong. Who the hell are you? I'm the son you forgot to account for. The biker. The one who abandoned her for 30 years. Garrett pulled a Glock 19 from his waistband, pointed it at Decker with a shaking hand. "You don't scare me, old man. You're just another—" The sound of motorcycle engines cut him off, 4 of them coming from the North Road. The Harleys had a different sound than the trucks. Deeper, more controlled. The sound of machines that had been built right and maintained with care. The bikes crested the small rise and stopped in a line. 4 riders, 4 leather vests, 4 men who'd ridden through hell and back together. Bishop Kincaid killed his engine first, climbed off his bike with the deliberate movements of a man who'd been in more fights than he could count and won most of them. 63 years old, built like a fire hydrant with fists like sledgehammers. Gunnar Wolf followed, 61, lean and hard, with the predatory stillness of a man who'd been Army Ranger before he'd been Hell's Angel. His eyes scanned the situation with professional efficiency. Preacher Thorne stayed on his bike, but Decker could see the laptop open on his tank bag, the small drone already airborne circling above them, recording everything. Smokematic said nothing. He never did. But his presence was a statement all its own. Garrett's gun hand wavered. 3 against 7 was different math than 3 against 1. "This is family business," Garrett said, but his voice had lost its edge. "You made it our business when you touched this man's mother." Bishop's voice carried across the distance like distant thunder. "That's not family business. That's war." Flint took a step backward. His hand wasn't near any weapon. His eyes were calculating exit routes. Pierce cracked his knuckles. "I'm not scared of some old bikers." "Then you're stupid," Gunnar said flatly. "We were killing people before you were born, son. Don't make us show you how." Decker raised his free hand. "This doesn't have to get bloody. You 3 get in your trucks and drive away. We'll call this even." Garrett's laugh was bitter. "Even your mother destroyed my family. My grandfather died in prison because of her." "Your grandfather died in prison because he sold poison to children," Decker said. "Don't rewrite history to make yourself feel better about being trash." Garrett's finger tightened on the trigger. The gunshot never came. Instead, new headlights appeared. These from the main road, a white Crown Victoria with a light bar on top. Sheriff's vehicle. The car pulled to a stop between the 2 groups. The door opened and Sheriff Knox Aldridge stepped out. 64 years old, 32 years behind a badge. Tall, gone soft around the middle, with the kind of face that had learned to look trustworthy while lying through its teeth. "Gentlemen," Aldridge said, "I'm going to need everyone to lower their weapons and calm down." Garrett lowered the Glock slightly. "Sheriff, these bikers are trespassing. They're threatening us." "That's so," Aldridge looked at Decker. "Mr. Whitmore, it's been a long time." "Not long enough, Knox." Something flickered across the sheriff's face. "I heard there was an incident out here. Called in as a disturbance." "An incident?" Decker's voice was ice. "Is that what you call tying an 87-year-old woman to railroad tracks? Aldridge's expression didn't change. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Preacher spoke up from his bike. Streaming to FBI servers right now, video of the victim, video of Mr. Stillwell and his associates at the scene, video of everything that's happened since we arrived. Time-stamped, geotagged, encrypted. Aldridge's jaw tightened. FBI. You called federal agents into a local matter. Attempted murder isn't a local matter, Bishop said. It's a felony. Federal jurisdiction applies when local law enforcement is compromised. Compromised? Aldridge's hand moved toward his service weapon. You're making accusations you can't back up. Can I? Decker took a step forward. Someone leaked that video to your office 45 minutes before the train was scheduled. No response? No units dispatched? No welfare check? Either you're incompetent or you're complicit. Which is it, Knox? The silence stretched. In the distance, a coyote howled. The desert was darkening now, the sun almost gone. Shadows pooled in the hollows and arroyos. Garrett seized the moment, raised the Glock again. But not at Decker, at the oak tree, at the shadows where Lorraine lay hidden. She dies anyway, Garrett said. That's justice. That's what she deserves. Decker moved. 41 years of riding had taught him balance. The Marines had taught him speed. He covered the distance between himself and Garrett in 3 strides. The wrench came up, came around, connected with Garrett's wrist with a crack like breaking wood. The Glock flew from nerveless fingers. Garrett screamed. Pierce charged, all muscle and rage and no technique. Gunner stepped into his path. One punch, precise, economical. Pierce went down like a felled tree and didn't get up. Flint didn't even try. He raised his hands. I'm out. I'm done. I didn't sign up for this. Aldridge pulled his service weapon. A Glock 22, standard issue, but his hand was shaking. Everyone freeze. Bishop moved to his left, Smoke to the right, positioning without appearing to, professional, practiced. Put it down, Knox, Bishop said quietly. You're outnumbered and out-recorded. The FBI has everything. Fighting now just makes it worse. I can't, Aldridge's voice cracked. I can't let this get out. You don't understand what they'll do to me. Who? Decker demanded. Who's pulling your strings? From the shadows near the oak tree, a voice, weak but clear. Wade Stillwell. Lorraine emerged, leaning heavily on the oak's trunk. Her face was pale, her hair matted with blood. But her eyes were fierce. Wade has owned Knox for 31 years, ever since Silas went to prison. Knox made sure evidence disappeared, made sure witnesses changed their stories, made sure the Stillwell operation kept running, even with Silas locked up. Aldridge's weapon turned toward Lorraine. Helen, I'm sorry. I can't let you tell them. Decker's wrench was already in motion before the sheriff finished speaking. It hit Aldridge's hand with surgical precision. The Glock spun away into the darkness. Aldridge sank to his knees, cradling his broken hand. I didn't want this. I never wanted this. But you took the money anyway. Lorraine's voice held more disappointment than anger. Your mother was my friend Knox. Helen would be ashamed. The sheriff began to cry. Decker stood over him, wrench still in hand, and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion and disgust. Gunner had zip-tied Pierce. Bishop was doing the same to Garrett, whose wrist was already swelling to twice its normal size. Flint sat in the dirt with his hands behind his head, making no trouble. How long until the FBI gets here? Decker asked Preacher. Already here, Preacher said, nodding toward the main road. 3 black SUVs were approaching, fast, professional, the cavalry arriving exactly on time. Decker walked to his mother, knelt beside her. You should have stayed hidden. And let Knox point a gun at my son, I don't think so. You're supposed to be the one I protect, Mama, not the other way around. She reached out, touched his face with rope-burned fingers. Protection goes both ways, son, always has. The FBI vehicle stopped. Agents emerged, professional, efficient. They took in the scene with practiced eyes, the tied suspects, the sheriff on his knees, the elderly woman bleeding by the oak tree. The lead agent approached Decker, a woman 40-something with the bearing of someone who'd earned her position the hard way. I'm Special Agent Morrison. We received streaming data about a kidnapping and attempted murder. Are you the complainant? I'm the son, Decker said. That's the victim. Those 3 are the perpetrators. The sheriff is complicit. Morrison nodded, signaled her team. They moved in, taking custody of Garrett, Flint, and Pierce. 2 agents helped Aldridge to his feet, read him his rights in voices that held no emotion. We'll need statements from everyone, Morrison said. But first, let's get your mother medical attention. An ambulance was already arriving. Paramedics rushed forward with a gurney. Lorraine waved them off. I can walk. Mama, I can walk, Decker. I've been walking for 87 years. I'm not about to stop now. She walked to the ambulance under her own power, though Decker stayed close enough to catch her if she fell. The paramedics helped her onto the gurney. Once she reached it, began checking vitals, starting an IV. Sir, one of them said to Decker, your hand. He looked down. His right hand was covered in blood from where he'd cut himself on the rope. He'd forgotten about it entirely. I'm fine. You need stitches. Later. Now, son, Lorraine's voice from the gurney, don't make me worry about you on top of everything else. Decker allowed the paramedic to clean and bandage his hand. 8 stitches administered in the back of the ambulance, while his mother watched with eyes that held decades of practice, worrying about her children. Agent Morrison approached. Mr. Whitmore, we're going to need you to come to the Phoenix field office. Give a full statement. Your associates as well. How long? Several hours, possibly overnight. This is a complex case with multiple suspects and federal jurisdiction issues. Decker looked at his mother. I can't leave her. I'll be fine, Lorraine said. They're taking me to Flagstaff Medical Center. You go do what needs doing. We'll see each other tomorrow. Mama, Decker. She used the voice she'd used when he was 12 years old and trying to argue his way out of consequences. Go. Help them put these men away for good. That's what matters now. Morrison was waiting. Bishop and the others were already talking to other agents, giving preliminary statements. Decker squeezed his mother's hand gently, careful of her rope burns. I'll be there tomorrow morning. First thing. I know you will. The ambulance pulled away, lights flashing, but no siren. Not an emergency anymore. Just an elderly woman who'd survived something that should have killed her. Decker watched the lights fade into the distance, felt something shift inside him. Something that had been locked tight for 29 years beginning to open. Bishop appeared at his elbow. You good, brother? No, but I will be. That's all any of us can ask for. They rode to the FBI field office in convoy. 5 Harleys surrounded by federal vehicles. An unusual sight on Interstate 17, but no one stopped them. The statement-taking process was exhausting. Decker recounted everything: the phone call, the video, the race to Silverton, the conversation with Rust, the rescue, the confrontation. Agent Morrison asked questions. Lots of questions. She was thorough, professional, but Decker could see the anger beneath her professional demeanor. Nobody liked people who hurt the elderly. We'll want to interview your mother tomorrow, Morrison said, but given her condition, we'll wait until the doctors clear her. What about Wade Stillwell, Garrett's father? He's the one behind this. We're executing search warrants on his property as we speak. His phone records, his financial records. If he's involved, we'll find the evidence. And the sheriff, Morrison's expression hardened. Knox Aldridge is looking at conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to attempted murder. If half of what your mother alleges is true, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Good. It was almost midnight when they finished. Decker emerged from the interview room to find Bishop waiting in the lobby, reading a magazine about custom motorcycles. Others went to get food, Bishop said. Figured you might want some space. I want to get to Flagstaff. Hospital visiting hours ended 2 hours ago. I don't care. Bishop stood, stretched. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Come on, I'll ride with you. They took the back roads, faster, less traffic. The night was clear, the stars bright enough to cast shadows. Their headlights cut tunnels through the darkness. Decker's mind was churning. The events of the day kept playing on repeat. The video, the race, the rope fraying under his knife, his mother's eyes opening, the train passing. He'd gotten there. Barely. But he'd made it. But what if he hadn't? What if traffic had been heavier? What if his bike had broken down? What if he'd chosen the wrong railroad section? His mother would be dead, and he would have spent the rest of his life knowing he'd had 29 years to make things right and had chosen not to. The thought made him sick. Flagstaff Medical Center loomed out of the darkness, a modern building of glass and steel perched on the edge of the pine forest. Decker pulled into the parking lot, killed his engine. Bishop did the same. Want company? Yeah, actually I do. The night nurse at the front desk looked up as they approached. 2 large men in leather vests smelling of road dust and exhaust. She didn't blink. Visiting hours are over. I'm here to see Lorraine Whitmore. I'm her son. The nurse checked her computer. She's in observation, room 342, but she needs rest. I'll be quiet, I just need to see her. Something in his voice must have reached her. The nurse nodded. Elevators are down the hall, 3rd floor. They rode up in silence. The hospital at midnight had a particular quality, hushed liminal caught between one day and the next. Room 342 was at the end of a quiet corridor. The door was cracked open. A light glowed softly inside. Decker pushed the door open slowly. His mother lay in the hospital bed elevated slightly, IV in her left arm, monitor leads on her chest, bandages on her wrists and forehead, but her eyes were open alert. "I knew you'd come," she said. "Visiting hours be damned." Decker pulled a chair close to the bed, sat. "How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a train?" She smiled faintly. "Though I suppose I didn't technically. Thanks to you." "I cut it too close, Mama. If I'd been 30 seconds later." "But you weren't. You were exactly on time." Bishop stood by the door. "Ma'am, name's Axel Kincaid. Friends call me Bishop. I'm Decker's chapter president." Lorraine studied him. "You're the one who sent in on the other writers?" "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you. I owe you my life." "No, ma'am. You owe that to your son. We just backed his play." She turned her gaze to Decker. "The FBI agent told me they arrested all of them. Garrett, his friend's Knox. Is that true?" "Yes, Wade Stillwell is next." "Good." Her voice hardened. "That family has poisoned this town long enough." "Why didn't you tell me," Decker asked, "about the threats, about the court case, about any of it? Would you have come if I'd called?" The question hung in the air between them. "I don't know," Decker said finally. "I'd like to think I would, but honestly I don't know. That's why I didn't call. I didn't want to find out the answer was no." Decker felt something break inside him. Not clean, not simple, just a fracture that went deep. "I'm sorry, Mama, for all of it, for leaving, for staying gone, for not being the son you deserved." "Oh, Decker." She reached out, took his bandaged hand in her rope-burned one. "I never needed a perfect son. I just needed you. And now you're here. I should have been here 29 years ago. Maybe, but beating yourself up won't change the past. What matters is what you do now. I want to make it right. Then stay. Not just tonight, not just until I'm healed. Stay and rebuild what we had, if you want to." Decker looked at his mother's face. Age had lined it, time had weathered it, but the strength he remembered from childhood was still there. Undiminished, unbreakable. "I want to," he said. "God help me, I want to. Then we'll figure it out. Together." Bishop cleared his throat. "I should give you two some privacy." "No," Lorraine said. "Stay. Your family too. That's what the vests mean, isn't it, Brotherhood?" Bishop moved into the room, stood at the foot of the bed. "Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what they mean." "Then you should know something about what happened 31 years ago." She told them the whole story, how she'd been working the closing shift at the diner in 1995, how she'd seen Silas Stillwell meeting with a man in the parking lot, how she'd watched them exchange a duffel bag for a briefcase, how the man had opened the briefcase to reveal stacks of cash. She'd thought about staying silent, minding her own business, raising her sons and keeping her head down. But the next day, a 16-year-old boy had overdosed on meth, died in the high school parking lot, and Lorraine had realized that silence was complicity. So she'd gone to the police, given a statement, agreed to testify. The threats started immediately. Phone calls in the middle of the night, dead animals left on her porch, her car's tires slashed. Decker had come home for 2 weeks, stayed with her, made sure she was safe during the trial. Then the trial ended. Silas got 30 years. The threats subsided, and Decker left. "I told you to go there," Lorraine said. "I told you I'd be fine, that the danger was over." "But it wasn't," Decker said. "Wade kept the operation running, just more carefully, and he never forgave you." "No, he didn't. He raised Garrett on that grudge, fed it to him year after year, until Garrett thought revenge was justice." "That's on Wade," Bishop said. "Not on you. You did the right thing." "The right thing isn't always the safe thing," Lorraine said. "I learned that a long time ago, but it's still right." A nurse appeared in the doorway. "I'm sorry, gentlemen. She really does need rest." Decker stood, bent, kissed his mother's forehead. "I'll be back first thing in the morning." "I'll be here," she said. "Not like I'm going anywhere." In the hallway, Bishop put a hand on Decker's shoulder. "She's tough. Tougher than most men I know." "She always has been. I just forgot for a while." "You remember now. That's what counts." They rode back to Tucson as the night deepened toward morning. The road was empty, the desert silent except for their engines. Decker thought about the wrench in his saddlebag, about the Ka-bar knife clipped to his belt, about the tools of violence he'd carried for 41 years. But it wasn't violence that had saved his mother today. It was love. Imperfect. Late. But real. And maybe, just maybe, it was enough to start rebuilding what he'd let crumble. The clubhouse appeared ahead, a low building, surrounded by bikes. The chapter was waiting. They'd know by now what had happened. They'd want details. But as Decker pulled into the lot and killed his engine, he realized something. For the first time in 29 years, he didn't want to be here. He wanted to be in Silverton, in a chair beside a hospital bed, watching his mother sleep and making sure she was safe. He wanted to go home. Bishop must have seen something in his face. You should go back, to Flagstaff, to your mother. The chapter will understand. I need to give my statement to. We'll handle it. Go. Decker looked at his president, his friend, his brother. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't disappear again. We'll visit. Regular runs up to Silverton. Make sure you are settling in okay. I'd like that. Decker started his bike again, rode back out into the night. But this time he wasn't running from something. He was running toward it. Toward home. Toward the woman who'd taught him what strength really meant. Toward the life he should have been living all along. The miles fell away. The stars wheeled overhead. And Decker Whitmore, for the first time in 29 years, felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Dawn broke over Flagstaff in shades of gold and amber. Decker sat in the hospital parking lot, watching the sky lighten, his third cup of vending machine coffee going cold in his hands. He'd been here since 2 a.m., unable to sleep, unwilling to leave. At 6:30, the nurse from the night shift found him. You can go up now. She's awake. Room 342 looked different in daylight. Less liminal. More real. His mother sat propped up in bed, picking at a breakfast tray of scrambled eggs and toast. She looked up when he entered, and her face transformed with a smile that made her look 20 years younger. You came back. I said I would. People say a lot of things, Decker, especially to mothers. It's the doing that matters. He pulled the chair close. Sat. Up close, he could see the extent of her injuries more clearly. The bandage on her temple covered what the doctor had told him was a concussion. The rope burns on her wrists were raw, angry, but her eyes were clear, alert, undefeated. The doctor says they're keeping you another day. Observation. Make sure there's no complications from the head injury. Waste of time. I'm fine. You got pistol whipped and tied to railroad tracks, Mama. You're not fine. I survived. That's finer than their alternative. A knock at the door interrupted them. Agent Morrison entered, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing the same set from yesterday. Either she'd gone home and changed into an identical outfit, or she'd been working all night. Mrs. Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore. I hope I'm not interrupting. Come in, Lorraine said, though I suspect this isn't a social call. Morrison sat in the chair by the window, opened her portfolio. We arrested Wade Stillwell at 4 a.m. this morning. Search warrant on his property turned up evidence of ongoing drug manufacturing and distribution. Text messages between him and his son Garrett discussing the attack on you. Financial records showing payments to Sheriff Aldridge going back 31 years. Will he go to prison? Lorraine asked. For the rest of his life. We're charging him with conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, drug trafficking, and about 24 other counts. His attorney has already approached us about a plea deal. What kind of deal? Life without parole instead of the death penalty, in exchange for testimony about the corruption network in Silverton. Turns out Wade wasn't the only one on the Stillwell payroll. Decker leaned forward. Who else? Morrison consulted her notes. 3 county commissioners, the clerk of courts, 2 city council members, a state highway patrol officer. The Stillwell family essentially owned the local government. For how long? Lorraine's voice was quiet. Our preliminary investigation suggests at least 25 years, since shortly after Silas Stillwell went to prison. So I didn't stop anything, Lorraine said. I just made them more careful. No, ma'am, Morrison's voice was firm. You stopped Silas. You created a record. You showed that someone in Silverton had the courage to stand up. What happened after wasn't your fault. It was theirs. Lorraine nodded slowly. What happens now? We clean house. Federal prosecutors are taking over. Anyone connected to the Stillwell operation will be investigated and charged. Silverton's getting a federal monitor for the next 5 years. And you, Mrs. Whitmore, are getting a commendation for your courage and civic duty. I don't want a commendation. I want my town back. You'll get both. Morrison stood, closed her portfolio. I'll need you to come to Phoenix for a formal deposition once you're released, but that can wait until you're recovered. In the meantime, we've assigned a protective detail. Just a precaution. After Morrison left, Decker and Lorraine sat in silence for a long moment. She's right, you know, Decker said finally. What you did 31 years ago, it mattered. Tell that to the families of everyone who owed it in the meantime. You can't carry that, Mama. You did what one person could do. The system failed. That's not on you. She looked at him with tired eyes. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. Just took me 29 years to remember the lessons. The door opened again. This time it was a doctor. Young, efficient. She checked Lorraine's chart, examined the bandages, asked questions about pain levels and dizziness. Everything looks good, the doctor said. We'll run another CT scan this afternoon just to be safe. But barring any complications, you can go home tomorrow morning. After the doctor left, Lorraine turned to Decker. I need you to do something for me. Anything. Go to my house, feed my cat, water my garden, make sure everything's locked up tight. You have a cat. Adopted her 2 years ago, Orange Tabby. Her name is Clementine. Decker tried to imagine his mother with a cat. The image didn't quite fit with his memories of the woman who'd raised 3 boys in a house that was perpetual chaos. What else happened in the last 29 years that I don't know about? A lot, son, a lot. But we've got time now. We can catch up properly. He stood. I'll go take care of the house. Be back this afternoon. Decker. She caught his hand. Thank you for coming, for staying, for all of it. I should have done it 29 years ago. Should have doesn't matter anymore. What matters is you're doing it now. The drive to Silverton felt different in daylight. The town that had seemed small and hostile in the dark is just a tired desert community trying to survive. Population 2,800, Main Street lined with buildings from the 1950s. A post office, a library, 3 churches, the diner where his mother had worked. Her house was on Cedar Street, a quarter-mile from the railroad tracks. A small wooden structure painted pale yellow, with a porch that sagged slightly on one side, and a garden that demonstrated his mother's stubborn refusal to let the desert win. Tomatoes, peppers, herbs, all thriving in soil that should have been hostile, all carefully tended despite his mother's 87 years. The door was still broken from when Garrett and his crew had forced their way in. Decker made a mental note to fix it. The inside of the house was exactly as he remembered and completely different. The furniture was the same, the couch he'd sat on as a child, the kitchen table where they'd eaten 1,000 meals. But there were new things too. Photos he'd never seen, a laptop on the desk by the window, a flat-screen TV, and a cat. Clementine appeared from the bedroom meowing indignantly. Orange Tabby, just as his mother had said. She wound around Decker's legs, purring and complaining in equal measure. Yeah, I know, she's been gone, but she's coming back. He found the cat food in the pantry, filled the bowl. Clementine attacked it like she'd been starved for days, though Decker suspected his mother had fed her just before being taken. The house was quiet. Dust motes drifted in the sunlight streaming through the windows. The refrigerator hummed. The cat ate. Decker walked through the room slowly. His childhood bedroom was now a sewing room. 3 sewing machines on a long table, bolts of fabric in every color. A dress form in the corner, wearing a half-finished dress. His mother still sewed, still took in work, even at 87. The photos on the walls told stories, his brothers and their families. Grandchildren Decker had never met, great-grandchildren who didn't know his name. And in the place of honor above the fireplace, a photo from 1957, his mother and father on their wedding day. Clayton Whitmore in his best suit looking young and strong and full of hope. Lorraine in a simple white dress holding a bouquet of wildflowers. They looked happy, completely unreservedly happy. Decker felt something tighten in his chest. His father had died at 42, 27 years of marriage, 2 decades of working the mines, then gone in an instant when a cable snapped, and his mother had carried on. Raised 3 boys alone, kept food on the table, kept the family together, never complained, never quit. What had Decker done with his 41 years of freedom-ridden bikes, avoided commitment, run from anything that looked like responsibility? His phone rang. Bishop, how's your mama? Getting her released tomorrow. How are things there? FBI is still crawling all over, but the main action's in Silverton. You should see it, Deck. They're hauling people out of the courthouse in handcuffs. The whole rotten structure's coming down. Good. Listen, the chapter wants to do something. For your mother, a proper thank you. She won't want anything. Not asking what she wants, asking what she needs. Decker looked around the house. The broken door, the sagging porch, the fence that Garrett had destroyed with his truck. Repairs. The house needs work. Nothing major, but things she can't do herself anymore. Consider it done. We'll organize a work party. Get it handled. After the call ended, Decker spent 2 hours fixing what he could with tools he found in the garage. His father's tools, carefully maintained, still sharp and true after 50 years. He repaired the broken door, replaced the damaged fence post, tightened the porch railing. Small things, simple things, but each repair felt like penance, like prayer. He was replacing a rotted board on the porch steps when a voice called out, "Decker Whitmore, as I live and breathe." He looked up. An elderly man stood at the edge of the property. Late 70s, stooped with age but sharp-eyed. It took Decker a moment to place him. "Mr. Hendricks." "The same, though I go by Tom these days. Only my students called me Mr. Hendricks." Tom Hendricks had taught history at Silverton High, had taught all 3 Whitmore boys. Decker remembered him as stern but fair, with a passion for making the past come alive. "I heard what happened to your mother," Hendricks said. "Terrible business. How is she recovering? Coming home tomorrow." "Good, good. This town needs people like Lorraine. Always has." He paused. "I'm glad you came back, son. I should have come back a long time ago." Should have doesn't change the past, but you're here now. That's what matters. It was the second time today someone had said that to him. Hendricks gestured to the porch. "Mind if I sit? These old legs don't work like they used to." They sat on the porch together, 2 men separated by a decade in age but united by connection to this place, this woman, this moment. "Your mother talked about you, you know," Hendricks said. "Not often, but when she did, it was clear she missed you." "She never said that to me." Lorraine's not the type to lay on guilt, but missing someone, that's different from blame. They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the desert wind move through the scrub oak, listening to the distant sound of traffic on the main road. "The town's changing," Hendricks said eventually. "Has been for years. Young people leaving, businesses closing, and then this corruption. It's like watching something die slowly. The FBI's cleaning it up. Federal prosecutors can remove cancer, but they can't replace what's lost. That takes people, takes community." He turned to Decker. "Takes people coming home." The implication was clear. "I'm thinking about it," Decker said. "Think hard. This town could use someone like you, someone who understands loyalty, brotherhood, someone who knows how to fight when it matters." After Hendricks left, Decker finished the porch repairs and headed back to Flagstaff. The afternoon was fading toward evening, the sky turning that particular shade of blue that only exists in high desert country. His mother was asleep when he arrived at the hospital. He sat in the chair by her bed and watched her breathe. In, out, in, out. Each breath a small victory. Each moment a gift he'd almost lost. At some point he must have dozed off, because when he woke, it was dark outside and his mother was watching him. "How long have you been here?" she asked. "Not sure. Few hours maybe. You should go to get real sleep, in a real bed." "I'm fine here." "Decker Michael Whitmore. Don't make me mother you." He smiled despite himself. "Haven't heard the full name in a while. I save it for special occasions, like when my stubborn son won't take care of himself." A nurse brought dinner, hospital food. Lorraine picked at it without enthusiasm. Decker went to the cafeteria and brought back real food sandwiches from a deli across the street, soup that actually had flavor, coffee that didn't taste like motor oil. They ate together in comfortable silence. Outside, Flagstaff's lights twinkled against the darkness. Inside, mother and son shared a meal for the first time in 29 years. "I met Tom Hendricks today," Decker said. "At the house. Tom's a good man, still sharp as a tack, even at 78. He said the town needs people to come home." Lorraine set down her soup spoon. "And what did you say that I was thinking about it? Are you—" Decker looked at his hands, scarred from 1,000 repairs, stained with engine grease that never quite came out. These were working hands, capable hands. But what had they built? What had they created that would last? "I've spent 41 years running, Mama. Running from responsibility, from commitment, from anything that looked like it might tie me down. I told myself it was freedom, but maybe it was just fear." "Fear of what?" "Failing, being like Dad, working myself to death for nothing." Lorraine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "Your father didn't die for nothing. He died providing for his family. He died doing honest work. There's honor in that. He died at 42, Mama. That's not enough time. No, it's not. But he made the most of what he had. Can you say the same? The question hit like a physical blow. No, Decker said quietly. No, I can't. Then maybe it's time to change that. Not for me, not for anyone else. For yourself. They talked until the nurses came to do evening rounds. Talked about things they should have discussed decades ago. About Clayton's death. About raising three boys alone. About the choices Lorraine had made and the prices she'd paid. I was angry at you, Decker admitted. When you testified against Silas, I thought you should have kept your head down, stayed safe. I know. You told me as much before you left. I was wrong. You did the right thing. Doing the right thing is expensive, son. It cost me sleep, cost me security, nearly cost me my life 2 days ago. But I'd do it again, because the alternative is being complicit. And I can't live with that. How did you find that kind of courage? She smiled. I didn't find it. I built it, day by day, choice by choice. Every time I chose truth over comfort. Every time I chose what's right over what's easy. It adds up, becomes part of who you are. I want that strength. You have it, Decker. You rode 235 miles at 100 miles an hour to save me. You cut me free with 30 seconds to spare. That's not weakness. That's love in action. But I took 29 years to show up. And now you're here, so the question is, what are you going to do with the time you have left? Visiting hours ended at 9. Decker kissed his mother's forehead and headed for the parking lot. But instead of mounting his bike and riding away, he sat on it. Just sat, thinking. His phone buzzed. A text from Bishop. Work party scheduled for Saturday. 12 brothers confirmed. We'll get her house fixed right. Another text, this one from Gunner. Heard you might be relocating. About damn time. And one from Preacher. Silverton has good internet. You can work remote. Think about it. Even Smoke had sent a message, which was remarkable since Smoke never texted home is where you stand and fight. Decker looked up at the hospital. 3rd floor. The window where his mother's room glowed with warm light. He thought about the house on Cedar Street, about Clementine the cat, about the garden refusing to die in hostile soil, about Tom Hendricks and the town that needed people to come home. He thought about 41 years on the road, 41 years of freedom that had started to feel like running. And he thought about his father's tools in the garage, still sharp, still true, waiting for hands that knew how to use them. The decision crystallized. Clear, simple, inevitable. He was going home. Not for a visit, not temporarily. Home. He texted Bishop, need to talk to you about chapter transfer, thinking about starting a Silverton charter. The response was immediate. Hell yes, let's make it happen. Decker started his bike. But instead of heading back to Tucson, he rode to a motel near the hospital, checked in, took a real shower, slept in a real bed, and dreamed for the first time in decades about building something instead of just riding past it. Morning came with clear skies and cold air. Decker was at the hospital before breakfast, coffee in hand, ready to take his mother home. The discharge process took hours. Paperwork, prescriptions, instructions for wound care, a follow-up appointment with her regular doctor. Agent Morrison appeared with more paperwork, witness protection offers, that Lorraine declined security recommendations that she accepted grudgingly. Finally, at 11 a.m., they were free. Decker had borrowed Bishop's pickup truck for the occasion. His mother wouldn't be riding on the back of a motorcycle, not with her injuries. She settled into the passenger seat with visible relief. Hospital beds, she said, designed by sadists. You'll be in your own bed tonight. Can't wait. The drive to Silverton was quiet, comfortable. His mother dozed off halfway there, her head against the window, and Decker found himself driving carefully to avoid jostling her. When they pulled up to the house on Cedar Street, she woke and looked at the repairs he'd made. You fixed the porch. Started to. There's more to do. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, she smiled. Stubborn, just like your father. He helped her inside. Clementine appeared immediately, meowing and whining around Lorraine's legs with such enthusiasm that Decker had to catch his mother to keep her from stumbling. Dramatic cat, Lorraine said, but she was smiling. Decker settled her on the couch with pillows, blankets, water, and the TV remote. Then he made soup, real soup from a recipe she talked him through, and they ate lunch together while Clementine supervised from the armchair. This is good, Lorraine said. You learned to cook. Had to, got tired of diner food. Your father couldn't cook to save his life. Burned water once. They laughed together. Easy, natural. After lunch, Lorraine grew serious. Decker, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Okay. Are you staying because you want to, or because you feel obligated? He considered the question carefully. Both. Is that wrong? No, it's honest. Obligation gets a bad reputation. But it's just another word for responsibility, for duty, and there's honor in that. I want to stay, Mama. I want to build something here. Maybe open a garage, restore bikes, teach people how to fix things properly. Silverton could use a good mechanic. More than that, I am thinking about starting a Hells Angels charter here, a legitimate one. Work with the community, help with charity rides, maybe start a program to teach at-risk kids about motorcycle maintenance. Give them skills, purpose. Lorraine's eyes gleamed. You've been thinking about this. All night, the town's hurting. The FBI can remove corruption, but they can't replace what's lost. That takes people, takes community, takes someone willing to come home. Yeah, she reached out, took his hand. Your father would be proud. I hope so. I know so. He always said the measure of a man isn't where he falls, it's whether he gets back up. A knock at the door interrupted them. Decker opened it to find Bishop, Gunner, Preacher, and Smoke on the porch. Behind them, 8 more bikers. Trucks loaded with lumber, tools, building materials. Told you we'd handle the repairs, Bishop said. Hope you don't mind us starting early. Lorraine appeared in the doorway. Gentlemen, you didn't have to do this. Yes, ma'am, we did, Bishop said. Your family now. This is what family does. For the next 6 hours, 12 Hells Angels and 1 retired Marine descended on the house on Cedar Street like a construction crew with a mission. They repaired the porch, replaced damaged siding, fixed the fence, painted, hammered, built. Neighbors came out to watch. Some offered help, others brought food. By sunset, the house looked better than it had in years, and the street was filled with people bikers in leather vests working alongside retired teachers and church-going grandmothers. Community, real and raw and imperfect, but real. As darkness fell, someone brought out a grill. Someone else brought beer. Impromptu barbecue on Cedar Street with Lorraine presiding from her porch throne like a queen holding court. Decker stood apart slightly, watching. Bishop appeared at his elbow. This is good what you're doing. What am I doing? Coming home. Building something, setting an example. I'm just fixing a few houses. No, you're fixing a community. There's a difference. The party wound down around 9. The bikers packed up their tools, loaded their trucks, prepared to ride back to Tucson. But before they left, Bishop pulled Decker aside. I talked to the National Charter Office. They're open to a Silverton chapter. You'd be charter president. Report to me until you're established. Then you'd be autonomous. I don't know if I'm qualified. You're qualified. You've been riding longer than most of these kids have been alive. You know the code. You live the code. That's what matters. When can we start? Soon as you file the paperwork. But Decker, do it right. Community-focused, charity work, youth programs. Show Silverton what brotherhood really means. I will. After the bikers left, Decker helped his mother to bed, checked her bandages, made sure she took her medication, tucked her in like she'd tucked him in 40 years ago. Thank you, she said, for today, for all of it. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never crossed my mind. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Decker, one more thing. Yeah, your father's tools in the garage. They're yours now. Use them well. Something in his chest swelled. I will, Mama. I promise. He slept that night in his childhood bedroom, now converted to a sewing room, slept on an air mattress with Clementine curled up on his chest, and dreamed of his father showing him how to change oil, how to gap spark plugs, how to see what was broken and make it whole again. In the morning, he woke to sunlight streaming through the window and his mother's voice calling from the kitchen. Decker, you want coffee or are you planning to sleep all day? He smiled, rose, went to join his mother. 2 weeks later, the Hells Angels Silverton chapter held its first official meeting in a rented space on Main Street. 12 members, all local, all vetted, but all committed to the code, so. Decker stood before them wearing his president's patch and laid out the vision. We're not here to raise hell. We're here to raise up a community. We ride for charity. We work with at-risk youth. We show this town what brotherhood really means. Anyone who can't commit to that can leave now. Nobody left. They organized their first charity ride for the following month. All proceeds to the local food bank. They started a motorcycle maintenance class at the community center, teaching kids how to fix bikes and maybe in the process fix themselves. Decker opened his garage, Whitmore Custom Motorcycles in the old lumber mill building, brought in equipment, started taking wums. Word spread. Soon he had more work than he could handle. He hired 2 assistants, both former addicts, both looking for second chances. One of them was Flint Cavanaugh. The man who'd helped tie his mother to railroad tracks was now working 12-hour days rebuilding engines and learning that there was honor in honest work. "I don't understand why you gave me a chance," Flint said one day. "My mother believes in redemption," Decker said. "Figured I should too." "I don't deserve it." "Probably not, but you're here anyway. Don't waste it." Flint didn't. 6 months after coming home, Decker sat on his mother's porch on a Sunday afternoon. The garden was thriving tomatoes, heavy on the vine peppers, bright as Christmas ornaments. The house gleamed with fresh paint, courtesy of the Silverton chapter's monthly work parties. Clementine dozed in a patch of sunlight, her orange fur glowing. Lorraine emerged with 2 glasses of iced tea, moving slower than before but steady. The rope burns had healed to thin white lines on her wrists. The concussion was a memory. But something else had changed. She smiled more easily now, laughed more often. "You look content," she said, settling into the chair beside him. "I am." He took the tea. "Didn't think I would be. Thought I'd miss the road." "Do you?" "Sometimes, but not the way I expected. I miss the freedom of movement, but I don't miss the running." She was quiet for a moment, watching a dust devil spin across the empty lot across the street. "What's the difference? One has a destination, the other's just avoiding standing still." From down Cedar Street came the rumble of engines. The Silverton chapter returning from their weekly charity ride this time, collecting supplies for the food bank. 12 bikes rolled past in formation. Clean, disciplined, professional. Garrison Miller, 23 years old, former meth addict, now 6 months sober and working at Whitmore Custom Motorcycles, waved from his bike. Decker raised his glass in salute. "That boy's come a long way," Lorraine observed. "They all have. Just needed someone to believe in them. Like someone believed in you once." Decker thought about Jericho the Hells Angel, who'd found him drunk and lost in that Phoenix roadhouse in 1985. Who'd seen something worth saving in a broken Marine with nowhere to go. "Yeah, like that." His phone buzzed, a text from the community center. "Tonight's class is full. 15 kids signed up for motorcycle maintenance. Can we add another session?" He showed his mother. "You're going to need more space," she said. "Already looking at the old hardware store on Main. Owners willing to lease cheap if we commit to hiring local. Your father would love this, teaching young people a trade, building something that lasts." The mention of his father brought Decker's hand to his pocket. He'd been carrying the navy blue handkerchief for 6 months now, the one his father had given his mother on the day he proposed in 1957. The one she'd kept for 69 years. The one she'd given him 3 months ago with simple words, "Your father carried this over his heart." It reminded him what he was working for. "Now you carry it. Remember what you're building." He pulled it out now, the fabric soft with age, faded but intact. "I've been thinking," he said, "about that oak tree, where you were." Lorraine's expression shifted. Not fear, not pain, something else. Recognition, maybe. "What about it?" "It should mean something different now. Not the place you almost died, the place you chose to live." She reached over, covered his hand with hers. "What did you have in mind?" Decker told her. The next Saturday, 20 people gathered at the old oak tree. Lorraine and Decker, the Silverton chapter, Tom Hendricks, Russ McAllister, Agent Morrison, who'd driven up from Phoenix, even Flint Cavanaugh, who stood at the back, uncertain if he belonged. Decker had spent the week building a small bench from reclaimed wood lumber from the old mill where Garrett and his crew used to hang out, transforming the site of their plotting into something useful. The bench sat now in the shade of the ancient oak, solid and simple. A brass plaque read, "In memory of those who stand, for those learning to rise." "This tree's been here longer than Silverton," Decker said to the gathered group. His voice carried across the quiet desert morning. "It's seen drought and flood, fire and freeze. It's still standing. My mother taught me that's how you measure what matters, not by how loud something is, but by how long it stands." He looked at Lorraine, who nodded. 6 months ago, men tried to use this place for hatred, for revenge, for destruction. We're reclaiming it. This is now a place of remembering, of choosing, of standing. He pulled the navy handkerchief from his pocket, walked to the oak, found a branch at eye level, strong and weathered. "My father gave this to my mother 69 years ago. It was a promise he'd always find his way home to her." He kept that promise until the day he died. Decker's voice roughened. I broke that promise for 29 years, but I'm keeping it now. He tied the handkerchief to the branch carefully securely. The navy blue fabric moved gently in the desert breeze. This stays here, a marker for anyone who's lost. A reminder that every road leads home if you know how to look. That it's never too late to keep a promise. That standing still takes more courage than running. Lorraine walked to the tree, touched the handkerchief with rope-scarred fingers. Your father would be proud, she said quietly. Then louder to the group, we've all been lost at some point. Some of us are still finding our way. This tree, this handkerchief, this bench, they're here to remind us. The path home is always open. Flint stepped forward hesitantly. Mrs. Whitmore, I don't deserve to be here after what I did. You're here because you chose differently, Lorraine interrupted. Because when given a second chance, you took it. That's what this place is about now. Second chance, new choices, standing instead of running. Tom Hendricks produced a small leather journal. I'd like to start a tradition. Anyone who comes here, anyone who needs reminding about standing about, coming home, about second chances, they can write in this journal. Leave a thought, a promise, a hope. He wrote the first entry, for the students I taught who are still finding their way home. The door is always open. The journal passed from hand to hand. Bishop wrote, Gunner, preacher, even Smoke, who never wrote anything, added a single line. When it reached Flint, his hand shook. He wrote for a long time. When he finished, tears tracked down his face. Later, Decker would read what Flint had written. I helped tie a woman to these tracks 6 months ago. Today, she invited me to help honor them. I don't understand grace, but I'm learning, one day at a time. Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. Thank you, Decker. I won't waste this. The ceremony ended simply. No speeches, no grand proclamations, just people standing together in the shade of an ancient tree, watching a navy handkerchief move in the wind. As the group dispersed, heading back to trucks and bikes, Decker and Lorraine remained. You know what's funny, Lorraine said. 30 years ago when I testified against Silas Stilwell, I thought I was protecting the town, but the corruption just went deeper. The drugs kept flowing. I felt like I'd failed. You didn't fail, Mama. I know that now because you came home, because the FBI cleaned house, because Flint and Garrison and all those kids are choosing different paths. But for 30 years I carried that weight, wondering if I'd made things worse. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were carrying your own weight, your own fears. I couldn't add mine to yours. Decker looked at the handkerchief dancing in the breeze. I thought coming home would feel like surrender, like admitting I'd wasted all those years on the road. And it feels like freedom, real freedom, not the kind that comes from running, the kind that comes from choosing to stay. A hawk circled overhead, riding thermals in the clear Arizona sky. The railroad tracks gleamed in the midday sun, no longer a symbol of death, but of journeys, of movement with purpose. What's next? Lorraine asked. Keep building. The garage is doing well. The youth program's expanding. Bishop wants me to help train new chapter presidents across the Southwest, show them how to integrate with communities instead of against them. And personally, Decker smiled, I'm having dinner with Sarah Hendricks next week. Tom's daughter, she's a librarian, moved back to Silverton last month to care for her father. Lorraine's eyes sparkled. Tom didn't mention that. He did to me, subtly, about 5 times. Smart man. They sat in companionable silence, watching the handkerchief, watching the desert, watching the town in the distance, their town now healing and rebuilding. Thank you, Decker said finally. For what? For not giving up on me, for standing up when I ran away, for teaching me that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about loving despite the fear of loss. You taught yourself that, son. I just reminded you it was already there. A truck pulled up. Bishop and Gunner come to collect them for the potluck at the community center. Another Silverton tradition started by the chapter. Monthly gatherings, food, music, connection. As they walked toward the truck, Decker looked back one more time at the oak tree, at the handkerchief his father had carried, at the bench built from reclaimed wood, at the journal of second chances. The tree had stood for hundreds of years. It would stand for hundreds more, a silent witness to human struggle and human triumph, to falling and rising, to running and returning, and tied to its branch a piece of navy fabric that had once been a promise. That was now a beacon, for anyone who needed to find their way home, for anyone learning to stand, for anyone ready to stop running. The wind picked up, and the handkerchief danced like a flag, like a signal fire, like home.